welcome to another edition of Valley Sports Rewind. I'm Mike Kenichi, and today we are honored to have on two coaches who are going to coach in a big game this Saturday, going for the 7-mile trophy. We have the assistant coach for the Platt Tech Panthers, John DeFrancisco, and we have the head coach for the Emmett O'Brien Condors, Nick Aprea. And gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
No problem, Mike.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So, Coach Aprea, we'll start with you. First off, congratulations on a great season. You guys are enjoying your best season to date. Talk about that a little bit. How has that been for the players, you as coaches, the school? Just talk about the season this year.
You know, I get a lot of text messages from different coaches around, people that I've known forever. And, you know, even some friends that just, you know, it's 7-2. And I always respond with one word. It's almost surreal.
Right.
For the simple fact, you know, I think about, you know, our program and what we have and compared to other programs, and the fact that, you know, we're 7-2 and we could possibly, you know, be fortunate enough to win on Saturday, have a chance to go to the playoffs is scratch your head crazy. You know,
right.
It's remarkable. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, last year I thought we had a pretty decent team, but, you know, this year our team is different in that, you know, they've truly bought into what we do. I mean, we're a single wing team, and we're a single wing team. We're not going to change. That's what we're going to do. And we just tell our kids we just want 3 yards, and that's all you need to do, because 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, and you only need 10. So, and they've bought into that. And we try to tell them the big plays will come off the small plays, you know, for to consistently getting 3 yards. And that's what we've done. And I'm not quite sure if it's set in with the kids, Mike, in terms of, wow, we're 7-2. We have a chance to be 8-2. I mean, they've bought into the fact that they're excited that they've, you know, really turned the corner for the program, and you know, so they're excited about that. But, you know, the school has been great. Multiple teachers have come up to me and said, you know, what a great job. They're so thrilled. The morale, I think, in the building is a little bit better. And we've had some great support from, you know, the administration. We've had great support from our athletic director, Sue Shriver, and, you know, it's been good. It's been good, but there's still work to go.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong. You took over the program in its second year of existence, correct?
Right.
I believe Coach Roberts coached the first year.
Right. Ken Roberts was the coach the first year. I was his line coach then.
Right.
And he didn't come back for the second year. And, you know, the athletic director at the time, Dan Nemmerga, asked me if I wanted to do it. And, you know, frankly, I don't know. You know, it was one of those things where I didn't give him an answer right away, because I kind of looked around and said, is this what I want to do? And, you know, once I said yes, it was one of those things where it's become a part of my life. I have an extremely supportive wife and son who allow me to do this, because you could ask John, you know, football coaches, it's time. And she completely understood, and she's supportive of 1,000%. And, you know, here we are. It's just something where, you know, every year we do the same thing. You know, okay, we got to raise money at this time of the year, or this. And it's become part of my life, and I like it. So, you know, I'm here.
And Coach D, you've been coaching, I want to say, since 1977, you know, between Derby, Fairfield Prep, and now Platt Tech. Talk about the time at Platt Tech, because one thing I've noticed about these programs that people don't realize is there's no Pop Warner program for these kids, because it's a tech school. They're going there to learn a trade. So it's very difficult to build the programs. Talk about what it's been like with your time at Platt Tech the last 7 years or 8 years.
Well, I started when Vinny Kamara took over the program at Platt. Vinny was an assistant coach at Fairfield Prep when I was there, after my tenure at Derby for 27 years. So I kind of came on board then, and he asked me to coach the line, and I did. And I did it for about 3 or 4 years, and then I kind of I got out of it for a year or two, and then I got back into it because people left, and he needed a line coach. Right. So I said, I'll give you a year. And 1 year led to 2, and 2 led to 3, and then Jimmy Benjamin got the job, and he was the freshman coach when I was coaching the varsities, and I kind of like Jimmy, and so, like, you know, he kind of lets me go on my own pace, and I enjoy it very much. I enjoy the kids.
Right.
And it's a different kind of I'm sure Nick would appreciate this. It's a different kind of coaching than like at Derby and Fairfield Prep.
Oh, without 1,000%, completely different.
Yeah, it's just like, I go there, I enjoy the kids. I'm older, I don't yell as much anymore. And my expectancy is just for them to play the best they possibly can.
Right. The other thing too, and you could both answer this. Talk about, you guys go to some places to play a game. I mean, you go all over to Connecticut. So talk about that a little bit. The travel.
Simple for us. We had 5 road games, and it totaled 780 miles round trip.
Wow.
We've been to this year. We've been to Putnam. If anyone knows where that is, when we stood on the field, I said, "Coach, where are we?" He said, "Well, if you go over the scoreboard for 5 minutes, you're in Rhode Island. If you go over the press box for about 7 minutes, you're in Massachusetts." So that was one stop. We've gone to Norwich, we've gone to Enfield, we've gone to Hartford, and we've gone to Manchester.
Wow.
We went to Norwich, which was one of our losses. We went to Norwich. That was a 10 a.m. Saturday start, so our kids had to be at the school at 6:15.
Jeez.
Wow. So, it's things like that people don't realize. Excuse me. That, there's the Platt Tech O'Brien Tech is truly the most in proximity. It's the 7 Mile Trophy. It's
Right.
truly like
The closest.
the closest
Right.
game, and the fact that it's on your last game, Thanksgiving, whatever you want to call it, it makes it even more special. Because all these
Right.
other teams, they changed. We just had some league realignment. Just about everyone's Thanksgiving Day changed except ours. So, it's kind of special in the fact that it's 7. It's only 7 miles away, and a lot of the kids,
Right.
like we have kids from our community that play on Platt Tech, and we have some Platt Tech kid that people
Right.
could go to Platt Tech on
Right.
ours. So it's kind of neat.
And I'm sure you got some Valley kids as well. I mean, I believe you have your quarterback's from Derby, correct? Or is it your running back?
I think our receiver is Tamborine, Jacob. He's very good.
Very good.
I'm sure he would help Derby a lot if he went to
Right.
Derby High School.
Right.
We have a lot. We have a lot of kids. We have a lot of kids from Ansonia. We have 3 or 4 kids from Shelton. We have the kids from Seymour, Oxford, Prospect. I think I counted like we have 7 communities. We actually have 2 kids from Milford too, which is kind of
Right.
strange. But we got
They got
kids
away
all
from us.
over. Yeah,
You stole them.
that's it. We recruited them. Yeah.
But the other thing is as I alluded to earlier, without a Pop Warner program, some of these kids have probably played Pop Warner, but I guarantee you some of them probably haven't played since the first time they put on pads was probably freshman year. How difficult is that for you as coaches? Because some of these kids, you really have to teach them the basics, which in a normal high school where it's a public school, a lot of these kids have already been introduced to that years ago.
I think, and Coach, you could probably agree to this. I think that one of the big things is that, in our program, and probably yours too, like in the Tech League, if you're a freshman, sometimes you have an opportunity to play.
Sure.
Which, very rarely
Right.
happens. I mean, we have 2 freshmen that actually see significant time on our team. And so the thing is like you're getting a freshman, some who've never played before, and all of a sudden you're making them a varsity player. And then there's
Right.
so many other things, like, you think of a practice schedule, let's say a Shelton, Derby, and Sonia. They've practiced probably through the summer, they've or at least trained during the summer. A lot of times that we're meeting kids for the first time that first day.
Sure.
And
Right.
so you have an instance where our practice, probably those first 3 days, is probably no different than a Pop Warner practice in terms of
Right.
getting a kid in a stance and getting all those different things.
Yeah.
And you got to go through the whole teaching them what to do. A kid that's in, let's say, Shelton's program, when they were in AYF, they've done the same plays in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. When Jeff
Right.
Roy gets them, it's a piece of cake because
Sure.
they already know the plays.
Right.
Whereas us, we spend 20 minutes, and this is true, I don't know if it's true for you, but
Sure.
we spend 20 minutes in the beginning of the season just going over terminology. What's down? What's in? Things like that. What's
Absolutely.
outside? I remember the drill, one of the first days of drill, I says, we got to make sure we turn toward the boundary or turn away from the boundary. Coach, what's the boundary? So there's certain terms down
Sure.
in, even terms that mean that we would talk kick out or something like that. They don't know what those words mean. So you
No.
actually have to spend practice time just going over what those words mean and literally putting a ball in the middle of the field. Okay, which way's down, which way's out, where's inside, where's outside.
Where's out? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys have spring practice, or do you take the extra week in the summer?
No, we used when I first started, we did spring, but
Right.
then it's such a difficult time because you get a lot of kids that want to be football players for 10 days, and you kind of plan for them and you look for them, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
now you have to be a football player for 11 weeks,
Right.
and then you don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
So I just decided.
We don't have spring practice because Jimmy Benjamin is the track coach.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times he'll have one or two kids who will compete, like for a state title or, yeah. So we usually don't have it. Piggybacking on what Nick said about young kids, I mean, the one advantage to having kids they don't have any bad habits. They don't have habits.
Right.
So what they learn from me as a line coach is what I teach them, and I don't have to reteach something because they really don't know
Right.
what to do except what I've told them and how to do it.
Right.
And like I said, we could probably, I kid around with Jimmy Benjamin. I said, we should just start at 8 o'clock in the morning and then end at 8 o'clock at night for the first week.
Right.
I said, because there's so much to teach and so much to
Right.
do. Because, like, the rudimentary, they don't even understand a lot of times, like Nick said, the rudimentary terminology of the game. So
Right.
trying to put in plays and trying to be sophisticated. Like, I'll look at the guy who's the offensive coordinator and I said, you can't run that play. You can't run it because we just don't have the kids with the skill set to do it. So,
And instincts too. That's
And
another
instincts,
thing. They just
exactly.
Don't play.
no.
Right. So let me ask you this. You talked about Coach Benjamin. Talk to me about some of the coaches on your staff that you have with you because they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, they really have, and I'm fortunate, Coach D knows one of the coaches. I have Eric DeMarco.
He's
as-
excellent.
as an assistant coach.
He's excellent.
and
He
it's
was with
funny in
Seymour.
practice.
Yeah.
He's the right now he teaches at Seymour, and he's
Right.
currently the Notre Dame Fairfield girls basketball coach.
Right.
He could be a head coach anywhere in Connecticut
Sure.
for any team.
Sure.
And I am the luckiest guy in the world, and we're the luckiest program in the world to have him.
Right.
I jokingly at the banquet last year said that I learned something from him every day, and that's true. I just happen to be the head coach of this team, but what he's done with our offense and how he calls a game, it's really apples and oranges in our league, I think, because he does
Right.
things, and I'll go through the headset and I'll go, damn man, that's a good call.
Yeah.
And that's what's special about him. And practice wise, he's excellent in terms of practice. When we on offensive days and even on defensive days, he'll yell at me sometimes, hey, you got to make sure you get this right, we're not going to go into Saturday with this. And it's great. So I'm very, very fortunate to have him. And he, when we put the single wing in, he wasn't a single wing guy 2
Right.
years ago. I went to North Haven High School, sat with them for a week, went to their spring practice, learned it, then came to Eric and said, Eric, this is what I want to do. And we kind of met halfway. We
Sure.
don't block it the same way maybe North Haven does because we had to do things that he was comfortable with as a line
Yeah.
coach. So I gave in and a little, he gave in a little. And
Right.
kind of met it. But then he's just turned it into what it's become now. I mean, it's still single wing, but, we have so much stuff in that's coached. A lot of teams have a lot of stuff in and you look at it and you go, oof. Well, maybe they got too much stuff in, but
Right.
we have enough stuff in that our kids understand the concept, and each day they understand more and more. Like they're beginning to understand the offense as opposed to just knowing how to run the plays.
Right.
And then the other thing is the other coach we have is Coach Pagano, who was with me my first 2 years. Then he had
Right.
his little boy Keegan. He got out of coaching for a while because coaching
Sure.
kids, that's tough. And he decided to come back this year. And he's in the building. He teaches PE there, and he's an absolute godsend to have someone in the building.
Sure.
Because to have a coach in the building is
huge.
crucial.
Yeah,
And for a
yeah.
few years there, I didn't have one. And,
We don't have one at Platt.
right. So
Mhm.
now that he's with us again, it's great. And I knew what he was capable of doing, and he's just kind of learned, and he's just wonderful for us. So we only have 2 coaches. We're not like some staffs that got
Right.
6 or 7,
Yeah.
or if you go to a
And that's
Shelton-
not easy with 3 coaches because
No, it's not. Me and Derek always talk about. I don't know how many coaches you guys got.
Well,
But you have a freshman team, right?
no, we do not.
We always say at O'Brien, if we had one more coach, I mean, I suppose if you have 4, you want 5. You have 5, you want 6. But there's so many things like during practice that I'll say to Eric and Todd, and I'm like, geez, we're just not good with that. Like for example, in terms of steps and mechanics of our quarterback,
Sure.
That's something you really need a specific coach for, and that's like to be the fourth coach, let's say, on an offensive day.
Yeah.
Could handle that. Whereas now, granted we don't have wide receivers per se, but we have a group that, with the single wing, there's a lot of handling the ball and movement and stuff. So we have a group with that, and then we have a group like a JV type group with that, and then Eric takes the line. But if we had that one more
Sure.
coach to understand, let a kid,
Yeah.
take their steps this way. We have kids that just basically sling it now, just
Yeah.
to try to get it down there. But if we had one more coach, it would be great. But it's part. We're
Yeah.
we're budgeted for
We-
3.
We have a big this kid Keegan Little. He's very good. He's big. He's about 6'4", probably about 215, and he runs like a deer. And his stride is very long, but his arm slot is not where it's supposed to be. So I'll say he just doesn't throw the ball right.
Yeah.
And so then I say to myself, well, you're not the quarterback coach. You're the line coach.
Right.
So you're right. So I keep my mouth shut, but so he has a lot to learn. He's good as he is now, but he would be that much better if I could just take him and just put and work with him like individually for 15 or 20 minutes a day.
Right, and there's no for the line. It's just
Yeah.
It's one of the battles. It's a tech battle. You just kind of put your resources where you think you really need them, where
Right.
and then just
Right.
pray after that.
Yeah.
It's good though that so many of the tech schools have football now, because for years football was non-existent in the tech schools. I never thought we'd see the day Emmett would have a football program. They combined with Derby for about 5 years. Platt Tech, same thing.
Right.
So let me ask you this, okay? You guys get overshadowed because you've got Ansonia Naugatuck, you've got Shelton Derby, you've got Seymour Woodland. So you guys kind of get overshadowed because you're in a tech school, things like
Right.
that. Talk about this rivalry. How has this rivalry been, in your opinion, since it started?
Well, I guess when I first started it, and first of all, I'm the big proponent of this game should never be played on Thanksgiving.
True.
For whatever reason, when we had the game at our home game before we had a home field, we played at Shelton. So I think we played a game on a Tuesday night one year. Then we played a game on a Wednesday afternoon one year. Then we might have played it
Yeah.
on an oddball. This was the first time that we were able to get the game and not have a game, our home game, and not have we used to have a game scheduled on Saturday. This was the first time. To me, this is when this game should be played, for the simple fact the people that are going to go to our game are people from, obviously, Platt, people from O'Brien. There's, when you play a game on Saturday, now maybe you draw somebody that has nothing to do, and they might want to go
Right.
see a high school football
Right.
game. But you put this game on Thanksgiving, like when it's Thanksgiving, for whatever reason, it's always at Thanksgiving. When it's the Platt Tech, why I'll never know. But anyway, you wake up in the morning and you're not from Platt or O'Brien. You're going to wake up and you go, gee, should I go see Foreign and Law, or should I go see O'Brien and Platt? It seems like a pretty simple answer to me. You're going to go to Foreign and Law.
Right.
So, I think this game should always be on an odd day.
Right.
Saturday. I think Saturday would be perfect, especially too. It's Saturdays. The season's over earlier. That's
It's
one
true.
positive thing. You
It's
get
true.
kids. You play it on Thanksgiving, then you got to wait for kids to come back, collecting uniforms and stuff like that.
Right.
If you do it on Saturday, right there. That's one thing. The other thing about the rivalry is, and maybe Coach D could help me out on this, because Shelton Derby rivalry, because we both know that. Me Shelton, you Derby. That's a rivalry, but it's also a rivalry where when the game's over, if the kids see each other at McDonald's, they're not going to fight each other.
No.
They're going to hug
Right.
each other.
That's
Do a
right.
Great job. And I always thought that this rivalry could somehow become that, because, they're tech school kids. They've really never experienced anything. And
True.
when this rivalry first started, it was our home game first, and Ken Roberts had this idea to let's mimic what Shelton and Derby does with that Rotary Club. And we did it. we had it. It was a
Right.
great time. I think Bill Pucci was the MC that day.
Yeah.
Platt Tech kids were there. O'Brien Tech kids were there.
Right.
You know, so it became Platt Tech's home game the following year, and they chose not to do it. Coach Cameron thought it was not worth it, so it never really happened. And excuse me, I think the rivalry is not like Shelton and Derby. So
No.
unfortunately, for whatever reason, these kids have a dislike, a distaste for one another. And I will say some of the schools, I know you were there last year when your PA announcer comes
Yeah,
out of the
he
thing and
was-
says, hey, they're playing for the 7 Mile Trophy. Maybe I should probably explain to you what it says, O'Brien, since you've never seen it. You know, there's stuff, cheesy stuff like that that's happened.
That's billboard material. I said, why,
Yeah.
why are you saying that?
And, you know, stuff like that has never happened. So I think the rivalry is more so.
Well, I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their rivalry kind of starts with the school itself.
Right.
You know, where they, you know, they're competing on who's the better tech school, you know, who has the better trade. That's
Right.
kind of, you know, it's not just a sports rivalry. It's obviously, you know, a rivalry with, you know, our shops are better, you know, things like that. Because
Right.
you kind of always sense that with the two schools.
Right. And I think, too, you know, I was always learned that in order for something to be a rivalry, well, both teams have to win. We haven't won. So as far as I'm
Right.
concerned, until we win, then it becomes a rivalry. You know, they've beat us every single year, some
Now, how long has the game been in existence?
since the beginnings of O'Brien. So since 2011 was the first.
Right. Right.
Right? And I think that first year, I think the score was like 48-6 or something.
Yeah, there was some bad blood after that game. I
So
think
this is the
that,
seventh meeting that
Right.
the
Yeah,
two schools are going to
right.
play.
You know, my second year as the head coach. What's my second year? My second year as head coach, and we had a home game. It was 7-6. We scored
7-6.
We scored late. We went for 2, and we didn't make it. We lost 7-6.
Right.
But other than that, the games, maybe 2 years after, the following year, I think it might have been close,
Yeah.
14-12. or
14-12, something like that. You're right, Nick.
and then, you know, the last 2 years, I thought last year we had a great chance to beat them, and unfortunately it was like 24-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we weren't successful last year, but, you know,
Right.
it's you know, and there's other instances, hey, you know, kid, you know, screaming over, we got to take a picture, O'Brien, hurry up, get off the field, stuff like that. You know, and it's, you know, is it billboard material, locker room material? We don't have a locker room, so it can't be locker room material, but.
Well, we have one, but it's,
You know, one of the things Derby and Ansonia did years ago, because you kind of talked about how they shouldn't hate each other off the field. Well, Ansonia and Derby, they were having some problems. So what they did every summer for a few years is they had a picnic between the two schools. Has anything been discussed with the athletic directors about kind of getting like out in with the two schools?
I haven't heard
Kinda-
anything. I haven't.
No.
No.
You know, I think in a lot of ways football, I mean, it is. It's new to the tech schools, and maybe Coach Day, you could help me here. Football in tech schools, I don't think is looked at as football at Shelton or.
No, it isn't. I mean, I talk to friends of mine, and you know, I'll see, like, I'll talk to Joe Benanto, I'll talk to a few other people, I'll talk to Mike's dad, and they don't think that a Vogue Tech game is like really
It's exciting.
is really football. And even my wife, who I love dearly, and she's a great coach's wife, because when I coached baseball, she always came to the games, but she hasn't been to one football game. And she said, well, what you do at Platt, that really isn't football. I said, yeah, it is. We wear uniforms, and we have a ball,
Right.
and we throw it, and we tackle people, and we run, and we score touchdowns. But, you know, so, you know, Nick's correct. A lot of people, like, if I go down, I like to go down to Dutchess, but they'll be talking about.
Does?
I was vice president of Dutchess, but anyways, we'll go down there and they'll be talking about the rival Ansonia. Ansonia and Derby always comes up, you know, and so I'm sitting at another table, and like Joe Benanto is like a great. I never knew Joe on a personal level. He was always up here to me. You know, he was always, but he's really funny.
Right.
So he said to me, D, you just sit over there because we're not really talking about your kind of football. And you know, I said, well, we play, We win, we lose. I mean, just like everybody else, our kids get excited. And, they jest at it a lot, but, I take it really seriously. I mean, I get excited at the games, and
And you take the losses with it.
Well,
and they
I feel
hurt.
bad.
I mean, they don't.
Yeah,
it's not
it's-
like you go home and
right.
you're in a good mood.
No, and when you put in a lot of time, I think that's the other thing. Like, I'm also the president of the booster club, and
Right.
so you do a lot.
I actually try to make sure the program exists every year. And
Right.
I try to make sure our kids get as much as they possibly can.
Sure.
'Cause, when you come from a program like Shelton and you see what they do, you just say to yourself, why can't this kid have some of those things? You know what I mean? Are we ever going to have the ability to do things like Shelton? No, but at least we could try things and get things. Like I bought footballs that had our printed logo on it.
Sure.
They thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
We
That's
have
nice.
7 of them. Seymour High School's got like 18 of them.
Right.
They got 2 per game.
Sure.
We have 7 to last for 10.
Yeah.
And so things like that are so important. So yeah, like when you work so hard at something and you're not successful,
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
tough pill to swallow, even if it's quote unquote not football. But we practice just as long
Just as
everyone
hard
else,
and just as hard.
and it's just it's that that's what makes the tech league neat, because you're giving opportunities to kids that are playing in it. And I think in many regards, correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
you have kids that I think are more appreciative
Sure.
Yes.
of what you do,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why I stay there. Because you hear the horror stories of kids that feel
Yeah.
like they're entitled to stuff.
Right.
But O'Brien, I got a bunch of kids that are grateful and thankful
Yeah.
that
Right.
I'm there.
And I would imagine each year the enrollment is building on the team. I mean, how many kids do you have right now presently on the
Well,
team?
last year we had 17 seniors, so
Wow.
that was a lot. That was a lot of
That's
seniors.
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's like Shelton High School a lot, and we right now we have 34 kids in the program. Last year we had
Wow.
42, so we don't have a lot right now. We have 34. The nice thing is it's basically like 9, 9, 9, 9. It's like 9
Yeah,
seniors,
it's-
9
Right.
juniors. So we got
Yeah.
a good.
You got a good balance.
What's remarkable is you talked about graduating 17 seniors. Usually that's a down year for most teams, and you guys
Yeah, you
have
did a heck of a
reversed it.
job.
You've
Right.
had a tremendous year, so I mean, you got to look. This year has been great, but you even got a lot to look forward to down the road, which has got to be exciting. for
I
you.
think we do. I think we do, because in my opinion, 3 of our 5 or 6 best players are
Our underclassmen.
Are underclassmen.
That's
And-
not
and-
very good to hear.
Yeah,
and
and-
I don't want to listen to that, Nick. So we'll just
and it's one
delete
of those
that,
things-
please.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just hope like the next group of kids, if we get some new kids, because you kind of have to rebuild in the
Sure.
tech league. You hope that that's walking through
Right.
the hallway is going to decide to play football. I mean, we got
Sure.
a kid that plays offensive line. That's the first time he's ever played football. He's a starting tackle. So there's a lot of that stuff that goes on. You just hope
Right.
that the kids buy in as
Sure.
well as
Absolutely.
because that's what's made us good this year is the buy-in.
Right.
We haven't done anything different.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
kids that bought into the system. So, we have, one more game to go, just like they do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they want to beat us just as bad as we want to beat them. And, for us, it could mean something even more special if we win.
Sure.
So,
Right. And the interesting thing is both teams are playing for something because Coach D, it hasn't been the best season for the program.
No.
Like anything else, if you knock off a team, potentially, if Platt Tech were to win this game, it's going to knock Emmett O'Brien most likely out of the playoffs. So those kids have that they have to look forward to.
Yeah.
And it can make their season. For you guys, winning this game, it two things happen. One, you finally get that win under your belt in this rivalry, and then B, you go to the playoffs.
Right.
So I mean, there's so many things that how unique would it be for two Ansonia schools to play each other, because that's never happened.
Right.
They're literally 2 seconds down the road from each
Right.
other.
When we look at the playoffs, I mean, we've looked at the playoffs, and it could be Rocky Hill. I mean, whatever. If we happen to win, it looks like it maybe be Rocky Hill. If we win, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen. But we always talk. If there was one team we'd want to play, and it would be Ansonia, and that's just not to compete with Ansonia. Let's be clear here. It's the fact that 2 Ansonia schools would
Sure.
play. That would be something special in the Valley. Forget the fact where
I'd go to the game.
forget that we're O'Brien Tech, but the
Right.
fact that, you know, you have a program that's been around for 7 years, they make the playoffs in 7 years, and they actually just drive right down the road
Sure.
to playing at Sonia.
Absolutely.
That would be really cool for the Valley. It
Right.
really would. And you know, we were talking about it at Seymour High School. You know, if things roll right, Seymour wins, whatever. Seymour could possibly get in, Ansonia's could get in, Naugatuck could get in, Shelton could come and get in. You know, that's 4 or 5 schools within
The Valley, right.
7, 8 exits at
Right.
a Route 8 that are
That's
possibly
tremendous.
in the playoffs.
Right.
So that would be really good. But, you know, it really means nothing. The conversation means nothing if we don't get anything done on Saturday.
Right. And you know, you mentioned Shelton, Seymour, Ansonia. That's the thing too. If you look at these two programs, you have an Ansonia guy, you have a Derby guy at Platt Tech. At Emmett O'Brien, you have a Seymour guy, you have a Shelton guy.
Yeah.
So you've got Valley people coaching these kids, and I think that's important too because you guys understand what Valley football is all about, and I think
Right.
that makes a big difference.
Right, and I'll never forget our first game we played when I was the line coach. When they interviewed Tom Lennon at the end of the game, he mentioned something about how it wasn't the fact that they beat us, it was the fact that it was Valley football.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. And I always put that in the back of my head that, you know, even we're Emmett O'Brien, maybe Mrs. D doesn't think we play football. But the fact is that we're a football team in the Valley,
That's right.
you know.
Well,
and-
she didn't say. Did I say I meant Platt Tech?
yeah, but you know what I mean. We're
Oh
just
yeah,
like
right.
you, though.
I mean, right.
You know, we're just like you. But, you know, so it's you know, the fact that it's a Valley school, and granted, it's you know, we know who we are, but, you know, we just happen to be playing in the
Yeah.
CIAC system. We're not
Right.
making any rules here. We're just
Right.
playing within the system. You know, and for us to have a chance to do that, and it would be cool. It would really be cool. I'm not going to sit here and
Right.
And that's why
I remember.
Saturday.
I remember when I was at Fairfield. Saturday. Go ahead. I don't mean
No,
to cut
what
you
I'm
off.
saying is that's why
Saturdays are very important to
That's
you.
very important to us. You know,
Let
and
me ask you this: do you ever think about? Do you think it should always be the last game of the year, or would you like to see it maybe be played like the 6th game of the year to build up? I mean, when would you like that game to be played? If
You mean
had-
like the Platt game?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. This.
Yeah,
I
this
mean, no
this
other time.
should be.
Right.
It should
You
be
know,
the time.
You know, for the simple fact, you know, there's so much that lies on it. You know,
Right.
let's flip the switch the other way. If this was Platt Tech, I
Right.
would be working my rear end off to beat them.
Yeah.
Right.
To try to figure out how to beat them. You know, and I always remember Coach D back in 2002, 2003. I'll never forget. Shelton had a great team. Maybe they lost one game. Derby came in with like a 4-win team.
Yeah.
And
That was
Derby-
John Okel's
Derby
last year,
was
isn't it?
going into
Yeah,
that
and
game,
Derby
yeah.
ended up beating them. It was a rainy, wet field.
Yeah.
It snowed the night before.
Yeah. And
Was
I'll
that
never
John Okel's last game?
Last
Yeah.
game, yeah.
and I'll never forget the Shelton kids as we're walking out. The kids were Derby were on the bus, and they were all saying, "Have a great time in the playoffs, guys!" You know, because they knew they knocked them out.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what, you know, those kids from Derby, they
Yeah.
got something to remember for the rest of their lives,
Right.
like you said.
Right.
You know, so, you know, obviously if Platt Tech wins on Saturday, that's something they're going to have for the rest of their lives. And don't get me wrong, it's something that we'll have for the rest of our lives too. But, you know, it should be that way. Like, I don't want to end a game playing a team against, like, Final Tech
No,
or
no,
something.
No.
no. Right.
No, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't
And
want any other
you
way.
made a great point that you two really, of all the tech schools, and this is no disrespect to any of them, but really you two have the best rivalry in the tech league because you guys are literally next door to each other.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, and you know, I mean, Emmett does it at graduation. I know Platt Tech does it at graduation. They always refer to each other as that school down the street. So
Right.
in their mind, they're neighbors.
Right.
So
Right.
You know, like that Tamborino,
Yeah.
he might be neighbors to some of our kids.
Right.
You know, and he's going to another school. So that doesn't
Right.
happen.
Well, Tamborino's funny because a lot of time, you know, he knows I coached in Derby for years and years, 27 as a matter of fact. And he said, "Do you think I can play at Derby?" I said, "Well, you know, you might be able to play." And he's very good. You know,
I just
I
don't want to lose them, right?
I don't want to. Well, no, it's just like, you know, he sometimes, you know, he likes to. He'll give me a jab every now and then, you know. And I said, Tamborino, he'll say, "Coach, I can play at Derby, right?" I says, well, you might be like a messenger that brings in the plays. You can play every other down or something like that. And he's very, very good in the sense that, you know, I just look at this young man and I say he doesn't weigh 140 pounds soaking wet. And the other thing is he plays both sides of the ball, and even in practice, I mean, when he's on defense, he'll take your best receiver and he runs and runs and runs and runs. And then, the pass patterns that he runs over and over. And then at the end, I'll say to Jimmy, I said, Jim, Tamborine really doesn't need to run 5 50-yard sprints. And he'll look at me, he says, why not? I said, because he's run about 3 miles already. But Tamborine will never complain, but he's one of the kids that, I would like to see him go out on a winning note if at all possible. And the quarterback, too, because we've had him since he was a freshman, and he's taken his lumps. And, there's a few other kids that I would really like to see. But, we had a tough year. We had our best lineman got hurt. He was a big Polish kid, Sebastian Pelosi, and he was very good. I think he made all league last year, if I'm not mistaken. And he separated his shoulder, and we put him in a harness, and he played in the game, and he came out of the game, and of course he comes to me.
He played hurt all year.
Yeah, he played. Well, he didn't. So he was in tears. Now this young man just doesn't cry. So the doctors found out that, we were doing more damage to his bone structure. I said, That's it, Sebastian, you can't play. But I often ask him. I said, you don't come to practice. And I don't know what it wasn't the way I said it, but I just said, you don't come to practice. So he says, and he started to cry. I mean, he broke down. I said, Sebastian, I only said you don't come to practice. He says, Coach, I can't come to practice and watch and not play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be hard.
And I apologized to him, and I said, I'm sorry, Sebastian. I really didn't want that effect, But he's one of our better players, and we lost him. And we've had to shift kids around. Like I said, I've coached in programs where the football was the commitment. And you did that at Derby. You missed the practice. I had a kid. We had a kid that didn't come to practice because, he had a job. Because he had
a tough thing you deal with because the job has got to come first.
He said, I got to do a tune-up. But you're my right guard. But I got to do a tune-up. Are you going to pay me like $75 or whatever, Coach? I said, fine, go do a tune-up and whatever. But so I've learned to adapt to that.
Right.
And I don't get too worried about it. I just kind of go with the flow as far as that. Jimmy does.
Right.
God bless. Jimmy's going to live till he's 140. He does not get upset. If he does, it's internally. And the thing I love about coaching with him, he never, ever criticizes a kid during the game. And I always remembered Coach DeFlippo, as great as he was, that was one of his cardinal rules. You never correct the kid during the game. That happens like on Monday or whatever. So he doesn't do that. And I know he wants to, because don't forget, he's been on Shelton and Sonia teams that have been undefeated, like 3 years that he played, and he's made all league, all state, all everything. Yeah. And he comes to this program and he puts a different slant on it. He just, he's kind of like me. He just kind of, I learned from him. I'm not old enough. I'm not that old where I can't learn from somebody else. If I coach with Nick, I would listen to Nick. If Benjamin tells me to do something, I do it. He says, that's one thing about, he says, you never say no. I said, it's not my job. I'm not the head coach.
Right.
I've been the head coach of baseball, and I've had to, dole out responsibilities to the other coaches. But Benjamin never has. I never overstep my bounds. Right. If he asks me, do I like this play that he called, I'll say yes, I'll say no. That's it. But I won't say, it's not my, what do you have, 35 seconds to get a play in? Right. I said, come on. We don't need to have a discussion here. You're calling the play. Whoever calls the plays. Right. But, he taught me a lot about patience and like that, And like I said, last week, the first half, Wilkett, Wilkett, Huzzy, Wamogo, they hadn't won a game. All right, and the score at halftime was like 0-0. So I said, I want to talk to the lineman, and I want to talk to him privately. So I got him over here. I said, listen,
You're not private right now, so be careful.
this is a lot of crap. I said, you are not playing. You are playing down to this level. Okay, we had a long bus ride, but guys, give me a break. We should be winning this game by 40 points. This is crazy. I said, next week, meaning your week, I said, that will be the test. This is nothing. So we went out and scored like 42 points the second half. And one of the kids had the audacity to say, well, is that good enough as we got on the bus? That should have been the score at halftime,
Right.
and we should have been playing the young kids the second half of that.
Right.
So anyways, that's some of the humorous things, but, I'll sit back a lot and I'll like laugh. And my wife will say, have you had enough? Is this the end of the road for you? I said, I got a couple of kids I want to see through. There's a couple of kids I like to see if they could get better, but we'll see. I'm 70. I really don't need it in my life anymore, but we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you both this, because you're talking about some kids you want to see through. Now, obviously, it would be foolish for me to think that Derby isn't your number one, where your heart is.
Sure.
Because you were there for so many years. You were at Shelton for many years. Let me ask you this, though. How important is Emmett O'Brien football to you, and what has it meant to you as, an individual?
Other than my wife and my son, it's right up there.
Sure.
For the simple fact that it's, even though Kenny was there the first first year, it's mine.
Right.
That's your
no
baby.
one else's. It's mine, and I've been able to share that, thankfully, with great coaches that helped it to where it is right now. But we have a fundraiser on Sunday.
Okay.
We play Saturday. We have a fundraiser on Sunday.
What is it? I'll donate.
Yeah. Go to Stop and Shop and answer.
I got you. Well, every time I've seen your kids at
I
Stop
know.
and Shop, I've always thrown a couple bucks
So
in.
it's very important. It's funny. I still do the PA at Shelton High School.
Yes.
And, I do the
That's
PA for all
amazing.
their
I know
home
you
games.
do.
And I still do that, and I'm still, I went to school with all those guys. I coach with those guys.
Right.
I'm friends
Yeah.
with those guys. The offensive coordinator, Mike DeFleece, Joe Bonanto, said to me as the freshman coach, hey, I got this young kid. Can you just kind of help him out and give him the start? And it's Mike DeFleece who's the offensive coordinator now. So he was a great football coach.
Oh, yeah.
So even though, I still have, orange and black T-shirts, don't get me wrong. O'Brien Tech has become, my thing. I have a son who's in 8th grade, and he's thinking about going to Emmett O'Brien
Great.
next year, And I said, are you going to play football? Because that would mean I'd have to stay there at least another 4 more years,
Yeah.
But, it's a school that, I think, and I don't want this to come out as being arrogant and whatever. And Joe, John, you could.
Sure.
It's a great feeling knowing that you're going somewhere every day where you're helping kids.
Sure.
Right.
And I teach, and don't get me wrong, I teach at Seymour High, and I get that feeling too. But at Emmett O'Brien, I really feel like I'm helping kids, and there's nothing greater. I got invited this past summer, and of course, it was our first day of our first game. I got invited to a former player's wedding.
It's great. I've been to many.
I've had some kids. I had one kid, Tom Buckles, was our captain our first year. He's done more electrical work at my house and than you could imagine. I have.
Right.
They still contact me. Hey, Coach, great win. I'll get a text from, someone I haven't talked to.
Sure.
Whatever. I got a
And that's
happy.
got to be the most rewarding.
Yeah, I got a happy birthday message from someone who lives in Georgia now. My
That's
birthday was
great.
Monday.
That's
He said,
great,
hey,
Nick.
Coach, happy birthday.
Right.
So it's those types of things where, I'm sure it happens in other schools.
Sure.
But I think in our case, we have a lot of kids that I feel like we're giving them an opportunity to do something that they might not have that opportunity to do
Right.
someplace else.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. Now, 7-2, possibly going to state playoffs is just kind of like a benefit. It's kind of like a plus
Sure.
to that.
Right.
But the fact that, if, things don't go well on Saturday and we end up at 7-3, all those kids know they were on the best team that Emmett O'Brien has
Absolutely.
had. And I don't know, has Platt Tech ever won 7 games in a season?
No, we were 6-4. I
Right.
think that was like really.
those are some things. 7-3 in our school. That's like
It's
9-1
great.
or 10-0. So, it's just one of those things where it's become part of my life. It's
Right.
become part of who I am. I don't walk around with Emmett O'Brien stuff on all the time. That's just not me. But I know that the things that I'm doing there are good. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but I just think it.
Sure, absolutely.
Right. And not that you're obviously, if you get the chance to play in the playoffs, your goal is to win. But I'm sure you're going to tell your kids, have fun with it. This is your second season now. You did a great job your first season. Enjoy this, and whatever happens, happens.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, as a coach of a tech league, I'm realistic too. I'm not living in fantasy land or anything like
Sure.
that. So you just tell our kids, as you said, guys, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's 32 teams that are playing.
Absolutely, and you're still
the rest
there.
of the teams aren't playing. And it doesn't
Right.
matter the outcome. It's not going to define you as a person or as a football player, as your success this year. If that happens, you were 8-2, you finished second
Right.
place in your league, and you had an opportunity to play in the state tournament. If you were to, in August 15th or whatever we started, if you were to write that down on a piece of paper,
Right.
or I was to write it down on a piece of paper, you looked at me and thought I was crazy. And we're
Right.
here. So in that regard, it would be a cool experience. And I think it'd be a unique experience for the school and everything. Because, like I said to the kids, you make those tournaments in Tech League, they make the state tournaments in those other sports. But you don't even have to win 50% of your games to make
Right,
those tournaments.
absolutely.
Football, you got to win.
Yeah, 2 losses could get you out.
Yeah.
So, So let me ask you, what has Platt Tech meant to you? I mean, this
Well-
is, in a lot of ways, probably, it could be your final stop as a coach.
It's my final stop.
Yeah. So, you've been there a good amount of time now.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. What Nick could appreciate this. I mean, once I said I'm in, I'm all in.
Right.
So whatever you want me to do, I do it. You want me to scout? I think I told you the story about I was breaking down film, and I was in a room by myself. Everybody had gone home, and the janitor locked the door. I said, "Whoa, I'm here. What are you doing?" I says, "I'm breaking down film because I want to get like offensive, get the offensive chart so that the scout team could run the offense of the opponent, and I want to do the defensive chart." She said, "Well, what time do you think you'll be going home?" I says, "I don't know." So he said, "Well, don't you have anywhere to?" No. I says, "My kids are grown. I have a daughter that's 36. I have another daughter that's 32, and my wife, she doesn't care where I go. She wants me out.
Yeah, she's
So
happy you're there.
she's happy that I'm there. But
Hoping the game went overtime.
yeah, well,
Right,
the thing I wanted to bring up before I forgot, and Nick was talking about, I walk in the house after practice, and of course, it's just she and I are there. We're eating and supper, and then I'll go and watch the news. And she said, "Well, you don't have anything to say." Well, I started talking about Platt Tech football, and she said, "Look, I'm giving you 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I'm either going upstairs to watch TV or I'm going to bed. I don't want to talk about Platt Tech football." So I don't even realize that I'm talking about it. But like I said, Jimmy's become a close friend, and I feel for him more than I feel for myself and the other coaches too. But I think Jimmy knows what it is to win. I know what it is to win.
Right.
Because I'll tell the kids I've been here, and everywhere in between. So if I win it or I lose it, it doesn't make any difference because I won it in baseball. I won it all. I won it with Charlie in football.
Right.
And I've lost it all with Oak, and we've had losing seasons, and I've dealt with it.
Right.
And I've been everywhere in between. So whatever happens, if we get beat by Emmett, I'll shake Nick's hand and say good luck to you. I'll be there when you play whomever, and good luck to you, my friend, because we've had our share,
Right.
and he's right about that. We've had our run. So if I gotta part with the 7-mile trophy, he's gonna have to beat me up and try to take the trophy, and I'll say, "Here, Nick, you."
And I think that's a great name for it, the 7 Mile.
It's a
Trophy.
great name.
It is a great.
That I think
I
whoever
clocked it
came
from
up
my
with that
house.
Is a great, great idea. And the funny thing is, Nick, I don't know if you take any, abuse from your friends in a joking sense, but Coach D does. His friends love to rib him, love to say to him, got 7 Mile trophies leaving Platt Tech, so they've been kind of on him, and he's been nervous wreck this week. But I think that's what's good about the rivalry is that's what it should be. It should be for, having fun with it too, and he's having fun with it. They're giving him a hard time, but they're doing it tongue in cheek.
Right.
And that's what makes the rivalry good. And I just think that even though it's not going to compare to Naughty and Ansonia because you're talking almost 100 years, and Shelton and Derby, but I think this rivalry could be a very good rivalry. I really do.
I could be a really good rivalry.
Sure.
I think though it has to definitely turn the corner in that, we're in this together.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we're,
True.
something,
Nick.
if good things happen to Platt Tech football, and I'd be rooting for them just as hard as he did
Sure.
for us.
Right.
And I think that's what has to be part of the program. And, maybe someday it'll be that way. And I think
Right.
it does have an opportunity to be a great rivalry, without question, the best rivalry in the Tech League.
Sure.
Because there is no such thing as a
No,
rivalry.
like I said to you before, if you win and we shake hands after the game, and I'll make sure that that I'm there watching you play Ansonia, and I'll be the first one to shake your hand before the game.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one to shake your hand after the game, because I think what you accomplished this year, how you adapted to this offense, and I know we ran it in Derby, and I've looked at your film, and I said, you run it as well as we do, and you got some horses, so.
We do. We have some horses, and it's funny. Sometimes I think we do things with mirrors. We got a lot of kids.
No, you got some kids that can play. You got some kids that can
So,
play.
We're fortunate. We really are fortunate in that regard. But hey, we still have one more to go, and
Right.
Yeah.
as exciting as it would be for you guys to win, it would.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to admit it'd be crushing to lose.
Yeah.
It would be.
Well, the thing about us, meaning Platt, is that we've had no game that you can look back on. Like I talked to Jimmy, as we're walking in the dark. I said, I can't even find my car, for God's sake. I said, Jim, the nice thing, the thing about this year is that you can't look back at a game and say we should have won this game. We either got blown out or we blew teams out. The only game that we didn't was we got beat by Quinnipiac Valley on a lousy pass interference call that was horrendous.
Right.
But anyways, every other game we've gotten drilled,
Right.
or we've won.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was funny. I was talking with Tom Lennon today about that, and that's the way his schedule has gone too. He's either killed teams or
Yeah.
Sony beat him up pretty good. And I was like, geez, we've won an 18-12 game. We've won a 13-6 game. We've lost a 22-20 game when we turned the ball over.
So you know how to win. You know how to
we've,
lose.
We've been in situations.
Yeah.
We were up 18-0 on Quinnipiac. They came back and were winning 20-18, and then we ended up winning the game 38-20. So we've had some football games, and me and Eric and Todd always talked about it's fun when you coach in games.
Sure.
Like legit games, like not 42-0. Those are terrible. No matter which way they go, they're just
Yeah.
bad games to coach in. But when you have to coach in things and you
Yeah.
learn the plays, and that's what's neat. And
Right.
we've been very fortunate to have many of those games go our way. We played Bullard Havens, and it was 12-6 at half, and we kind of let it get away from us in the second half, and they kind of put a pretty big score on us. They scored a late touchdown, but
Yeah.
it's those are the types of games you want
Yeah.
to play in.
The thing that makes you tough is that it's hard to simulate wing T offense with a scout team.
Right.
So I quarterbacked the scout team this week.
Right.
I says, guys, you went the wrong way. You're supposed to
Right, it's when
it's hard to do that.
When I went to single wing, the problem that we knew most teams would have, because that's why I went to it. I said, we're not that great, but at least we have a reason now. Teams actually have to practice against
Right.
us. And we knew that the single wing is one of those things where the first thing you got to do is find a center that could snap to 3 kids, because if you
Sure.
can't find a center to snap to 3 kids, you can't even practice it.
Right.
So that was one thing that we knew bringing in this offense. We would have teams that actually would have to spend time on us, because when you win 1 game a year, 2 games a year, 4 games a year, teams aren't practicing against you. They're practicing against maybe the next good team
Sure.
they play.
Right.
Especially in our tech league. So that's why we went to it, was the fact that let's have someone practice against us, and maybe something could happen. And then we just we've been fortunate that we've gotten pretty good at it.
Yeah, you have.
And Eric has done some really cool things off of it. So we've been fortunate, just very
Right.
fortunate.
Well, I definitely think, guys, it's going to be a great game Saturday. I really think people are going to show up. Just the vibe I got today. You're going to see some Ansonia Derby guys attend the game. And, of course, you're going to see people who are rooting for Platt and rooting for Emmett that are going to come. So I think that's going to be awesome. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, for both teams, whoever wins the game, somebody accomplished something, because for you guys, it means an 8-2 record going to the playoffs. And for you guys, it means, where a season had some ups and some
Right.
downs, you could finish it on a very big up.
Yeah.
So I think both teams have a lot at stake, and I think it's going to be a great game. And I really do appreciate you both coming.
Thank
out
you so
today.
much.
No,
Pleasure.
thank you, Mike. It's a
Thank you. It's
privilege to be on.
let me know like the next time you want me on, Mike, so like I can make the proper. I'm only. Maybe we could do it again
Right.
and discuss and analyze how the game went.
Oh, okay. But I really do
He's a
appreciate
good
it,
man.
Nick, and I think what you're doing with Emmett is great. And
I do too.
Coach George Mayo said this to me when we talked on the show, and he basically said, he goes, these kids need Nick, and I tell them every year, don't think about leaving because they need you. And I really think that, somebody like him who can see that,
Yeah.
that says a lot about you. And,
Sure does.
Coach D, you know how everybody feels about you. I mean, you've been tremendous for kids for 40, 50 years now. So,
Yeah.
I think what you two do is great, and I applaud you, and I wish you both luck this Saturday.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
And that was Emmett O'Brien coach, Coach Nick Aprea, and Platt Tech assistant coach John DeFrancisco. I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.